Welcome to White Regis TV film review and preview. I'm Andrew Wright. This week, the new Steven Spielberg film Disclosure Day was released in cinemas. The film stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Hewson, and Colman Domingo, and revolves around a cybersecurity employee attempting to expose the existence of aliens to the public, whilst a weather reporter starts exhibiting strange abilities. So I saw the film on opening day on Wednesday, and I'm a big Spielberg fan. Love Jaws, love Raiders, love Schindler's List, love Amistad, Saving Private Ryan. Etc., etc. He's one of my two favourite directors, so I went into this film with massive expectations, like they were sky high. But to my massive shock, I was disappointed. The characters are kind of written annoyingly. Josh O'Connor is the worst member of the cast. Even though all the characters are kind of written annoying, he's the worst one, and the script is incredibly jumbled. The plot makes very little sense. Like, there's, stuff going on. It's like, what is that? What is that? But I did like the performances of Blunt, Firth, and Domingo. They're good. There's a really brilliant scene between Colin Firth and Colman Domingo, and I thought that the last 20 minutes of the film were incredible. I was on the edge of my seat in the cinema, so that made up for it. So I gave the film 3.5 stars out of 5. Which, to be fair, is me being generous and trying to find a middle ground. Disclosure Day is in cinemas now. This week, the Pixar film Hoppers was released on home video. The film stars Piper Curda, Bobby Moynihan, John Hamm, Kathy Najimy, and Dave Franco. The film revolves around an animal-loving activist college student who transfers her mind into a robotic beaver to help her save a local animal habitat from destruction. So it released on Disney Plus last week, but I held off until this week so I could watch it for the first time on Blu-ray, and I really liked it. It invokes Ratatouille, but not in a way that makes you wish you were watching Ratatouille, but more in a way that it reminds you. It just, sort of reminds you of it plot-wise, I guess, whilst also tackling relevant socio-environmental debates. I give the film 5 stars out of 5. I just really liked it. Hoppers is available now on home video and is streaming now on Disney Plus. Also released on home video this week was slasher horror film Scream 7, the sequel to 2023's Scream 6. The film stars Neve Campbell reprising her role as iconic Scream Queen final girl Sidney Prescott, after having previously been absent from Scream 6 due to a pay dispute. The film also stars Courtney Cox, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, and Matthew Lillard, reprising their roles from previous films. And they're joined by a multitude of new cast members. Like, there's a whole load of new people, like Isabel May, Joel McHale, McKenna Grace, Mark Consuelos, just a whole load of people. The film revolves around Sydney, who has long settled into a new life with her husband and children away from Woodsboro, but she gets drawn back into the fight when a new Ghostface killer targets her daughter, Tatum. Now, the film was steeped in controversy before the release, even before production started, because of the exit of the directors who made the previous two films, and then the exit of director Christopher Landon, who was hired to replace them. He left too, as well as the exit of star Jenna Ortega and the firing of actress Melissa Barrera. So I watched the film this week, and I was expecting it to be bad because it wasn't the same sort of creative energy that the previous two films had that I loved. But I ended up really liking Scream 7. Campbell gives a great performance. I really enjoyed Joel McHale's performance because it was so out of the norm for what you expect him to do, because he's mainly a comedic actor, but in this he's more of an action star. And I was really impressed by the film's thematic depth. It reminded me a lot of the 2018 Halloween film, which is another horror film I really like. But I did feel there were two over-the-top kills, and I've never been a fan of the meta humor of the franchise from day one. Yeah. Although looking back at my Letterboxd reviews, I thought it seems I was a fan of it in the first one. But just as it's gone on, I've not really been a fan of that. But this film was really solid. So I gave the film 4.5 stars out of 5. Scream 7 is on home video now. Next week, Toy Story 5 arrives in cinemas. The film is the fifth main film in the Toy Story films and is a sequel to 2019's Toy Story 4. The film stars Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Joan Cusack, among others reprising their roles from the previous films, and they are joined by Greta Lee, Conan O'Brien, Ernie Hudson, and Alan Cumming, among others. The film revolves around Woody returning to help Buzz and Jessie overcome a lily pad, a new tablet device that Bonnie has become enamored with. So obviously I'm previewing it well in advance because so there's no reviews or whatnot out for it, so I can't tell you what it's going to be like. All I can say is go see it in cinemas next weekend. Toy Story 5 is in cinemas next weekend. That's all I have for this week, but be sure to check back on June 27th. I'm off next week, where I will be talking about Supergirl. See you next time.